Hi everybody. Today I want to review the source evaluation assignment. You'll find the full text of the assignment in Canvas. Make sure you read it before proceeding. But this is a long and complicated assignment, so I thought it was worth explaining it to you in this video. So try to pay attention. You will do 5 of these in the course of the semester. They will all be of scholarly peer-reviewed articles. Only scholarly peer-reviewed articles are acceptable for these 5 source evaluations. For your research paper, you will need at least 7 scholarly sources. Okay, so 5 of them you will use for your source evaluations. These are each worth 4% of your course grade or 20% for all. So pay attention. They are graded rigorously, and you need to cover all of the requirements to get full credit. Let's review what a scholarly source is. You'll find this definition at the bottom of the assignment. Scholarly sources are found in scholarly journals, government publications, and books. They are written by experts in the field who are not paid and are peer-reviewed by several experts who are not paid before publishing. They are written in the specialized jargon of the field, are more than 6 pages in length, have diagrams, charts, and graphs, and have a list of references at the end. Now be very careful. Don't be thrown just because an article is in a scholarly peer-reviewed journal. If it doesn't meet this criteria, it is not considered a scholarly source, and you will not receive credit for using it in a source evaluation. For example, review articles, opinion pieces, letters to the editor. None of these are scholarly sources. In addition to articles found in scholarly journals, books published by university presses can be considered scholarly sources. Don't overlook these valuable resources. All right, let's get into the instructions for the assignment. Here are the formatting instructions. 1,500 words is about 5 pages. There's no minimum. You don't need to produce 5 pages if you do a thorough job content-wise, but try not to go beyond that maximum. At the top of the page of your source evaluation, state your research question and keep it up to date as the semester proceeds. It will change. I realize that at this point in the semester you don't probably have a research question, so it will be sufficient to state the topic you are exploring. The first section of the source evaluation is got 2 parts, reference and author, and it's worth 5 points. It says provide a full reference in APA format exactly as it will appear on your references page. You'll recall from XPOS that MLA had a works cited page. Here we're going to use APA format, and here's a model for a scholarly journal article right out of the OWL. Okay, I cut and paste it right from the OWL. You'll find similar models there for all types of sources that you may come across and want to use for the paper, like databases, videos, dissertations, books. Every conceivable kind of source is covered in the OWL. You can also always Google APA reference list followed by the type of source and find a template. But this is the only one you'll need for these source evaluations. By the way, do not trust the citations provided by the publication or a citation generator. They are usually incomplete or incorrect, and you will lose points. In the assignment, I provided you a link to the OWL to check that you've correctly cited your source. The second part of this assignment requirement is author. Give one sentence of information about the professional credentials of the author or authors to verify that they are credible and scholarly. You don't need to overdo this. I don't need to see their entire life story. What our student example here shows for Professor Hobson is sufficient to establish Professor Hobson's credibility. That's all I'm looking for. Next section of the assignment, worth 15 points, summary of argument and methods. So it says summarize the text in your own words, just 1 or 2 paragraphs. Make sure to cover the author's main argument. Main argument. Let me repeat that. Okay. So what that's asking for you to do is to identify the author's assertions and contentions, right? Another way to say that is to identify the author's thesis. This is not always obvious, so make sure you're clear before you answer this question. Don't lose points. Okay? It's not what is the article about. Okay? It's about what is the author arguing. And use in-text citations in correct APA format. Here's an example of a APA in-text citation. Go to the OWL and look for a model. Depending on the number of authors, it will change. Okay? Moving on. Key terms or concepts, 10 points. This requirement is difficult. Go back and review the video on frames and cases if you need to. It says identify and label 2 important terms or concepts from the reading. In your own words, define each one according to how the authors use the term in the reading. One or both terms must be a theoretical framing concept. This is where students get tripped up. Okay? And you need to label it. Here's an example from our student's paper. Notice she's named the term delusional acceptance, defined it, included an APA citation, and labeled it theoretical framing concept. Make it a habit to highlight the theoretical framing concepts you come across as you read your articles. And notice how the scholars use them to provide context for their arguments, because that is exactly what you will need to do in your research paper. Moving right along to the next requirement, an important one, a big one, worth 20 points for source evaluations 2, 3, 4, and 5, but worth 40 points for this first source evaluation. Be careful that you meet all of the requirements I'm about to spell out, because you can lose a lot of points for every mistake and omission. They'll be doubly costly the first time around. The requirement says select 3 idea-rich quotations of 4 lines or less that are important and relevant to your project, And that's the key phrase here. Important and relevant to your project. Don't just select quotes because you need to for this assignment. Find quotes that you might want to use. Write out each quote, cite it with an APA in-text citation like our student writer did. Okay. Then explain in detail the meaning of each quote, being careful to cover all of the keywords and ideas and to stay close to the author's meaning. Your explanation, like this student's explanation, should be approximately the same length as the quote. Certainly not shorter. It can be a bit longer. Certainly not shorter. Read carefully, please. Misreading these quotes can undermine your entire point if you end up using the quote in your paper. This happens all the time, and it's a very costly mistake to make. Take advantage of this assignment to make sure you understand the quotes you're going to be using later. Now, the crux of this quotation analysis section. In a separate bullet point or paragraph, close read, interpret, and analyze each quote in terms of your own developing argument. Pay attention to the meaning of analysis in this quote. Be sure to state explicitly how the quote is important and relevant to your project, and do us both a favor and begin your analysis making it clear, explicitly clear, that that's what you're about to do. This quotation is important to my argument because, notice what our student has done here. It begins to form a link, she says, between dreams and mental disorders. Okay? So, remember, you are building your paper in this assignment. If the quote has little or no relevance to your topic, then do not use it here. This is not an assignment you're doing for its own sake. Okay? Careful. People lose lots of points here for misunderstanding what analysis means in this section. Now, there's a section between analysis of quotations and overall evaluation of source. This section we're going to discuss in a moment, called synthesis. You don't need to understand it yet. I will make a video explaining it in a week or so before the second source evaluation is due. And that's when the points from the overall that's where the points from the source analysis will go down to 20. Overall evaluation of source, 20 points. Reflect on how the source contributes to your research project. For maximum credit, answer all of the questions in full. What are its limitations? What are its strengths? How timely is the source? Be specific. Take the time to put down on paper your detailed reflections about this source while they are still fresh in your mind. When you go back to this in a month to use the quotations in your paper, you will be thankful that you did. I reproduced the student's response to this question here. You can take a look at that when you have a chance. Okay? I'm not going to read it to you now, but you can stop the video and read it if you like. What sources does your source use, and how does it use them? Might any of those sources be useful to them? Name them using correct APA format for titles. Needless to say, and you can take a look at this student's answer to the question when you have a minute. Identify at least 2 or 3 new questions you came up with while reading that might guide your future research. Try to come up with open-ended how and why questions. Here is the student's response. This is an important part of the assignment. Questions that came up while you were reading that will lead you to further analysis, not summary. So not yes, no questions, not what questions, but open-ended how and why questions. This submission, all 5 of these submissions, should be finished, polished pieces, and any kinds of sloppiness, carelessness, grammatical errors, proofreading, citation errors will result in the loss of points. So go over the paper carefully before you submit it and get the maximum number of points that you can get. In summary, your source evaluations should demonstrate that you have read the material closely and that you comprehend how it fits into your own project. That's the purpose of these evaluations, how the material fits into your own project. These source evaluations will be of immense use not only in contributing to your body of knowledge about the topic under investigation, but also because the analytic and synthetic, beginning with source evaluation 2, of course, sections of your evaluations may be incorporated directly into your research paper. Yes, we will not consider it self-plagiarizing if you cut and paste from these 5 source evaluations and use them in your paper. So these are building blocks for your final research paper. Take the time to do them right. They will pay later. You will submit and be assessed only on 5 source evaluations. But completing source evaluations can be a useful method for organizing your research. I encourage you to complete source evaluations for all of your sources to help you keep track of the ideas, information, and arguments in your sources and to build an understanding of them as your projects develop. Thank you for listening and do a nice job.